I've been married to Abigail for 5 years. To everyone else, I'm seen as the perfect husband. I even made it onto a gossip magazine's list of husband who loves his wife #1. Everyone envies us, but no one knows what kind of role I actually play in this marriage. For 5 years, she's always been indifferent, and over time, my once passionate love for her slowly faded. Deep down, I know I'll never be that person in her heart, the one she can't forget. So I asked for a divorce and left her. But a week later, she showed up at the door of my new home. "Noah," she said, her eyes red. "Why did you stop wanting me?" That afternoon, as soon as I got home, Secretary Wu texted me, "Sir, President Liu has a social engagement tonight and will be home around 10:30. I stared at my phone for a while before replying, "Okay, thanks." 10:30. By then, she would probably have eaten and had a few drinks. I just needed to prepare her bath and put fresh clothes in the bathroom. When everything was ready, it was exactly 10:15. I thought about it, left a light on in the living room, and went to bed half asleep. I vaguely heard the door open. The sound of running water echoed from the bathroom, and just as I was about to fall asleep, a familiar scent drifted over. A warm body pressed against my cool back, and I groggily turned my head. Her lips landed precisely on mine. She must have had a little too much to drink. "Why are you going to bed so early?" she murmured, snuggling close to my ear. "I'm just a bit tired." But she kept holding on to me. Whenever she's drunk, she's like this. If I don't go along with her, she starts whining. Maybe this is the only time she's affectionate with me. Maybe only at moments like this do I feel like her husband. I couldn't refuse her. After it was over, it was already late at night. She fell asleep in my arms, but I couldn't sleep. I got up, poured myself a glass of red wine, and sat alone in the living room, staring at our wedding photo on the wall. When would be the right time to bring up the divorce? Abigail and I met in college. Back then, she was the radiant goddess, great family, excellent grades, beautiful, absolutely perfect. It was only natural that I fell for someone like her. I was persistent, too. But even after 2 semesters of chasing her and doing countless foolish things, I still couldn't win her over. I still remember that snowy day when I made her favorite dessert with my own hands and waited for her outside the girls' dormitory. All I got in return were her cold words, "Noah, stop coming after me. I like someone else." At first, I didn't want to believe it. I thought it was just an excuse to reject me, until one day, by chance, I saw him. Her love, Fabian. I watched as she carefully adjusted his collar, playfully ruffled his hair, and smiled at him with nothing but affection in her eyes. Then she stood on tiptoe and gave him a gentle kiss. That's when I realized Abigail could love someone that way. But that someone wasn't me. Their relationship quickly became the talk of the school, a goddess dating a poor student. Fabian faced endless criticism. People said he was trying to cling to the Liu family, calling him a gold digger. But Abigail always stood by him, even using her family's influence to shut down the school's gossip for him. Despite all this, their love didn't have a fairy tale ending. Abigail never told me the real reason for their breakup, but rumors said she wanted Fabian to marry her after graduation and become the Liu family's live-in son-in-law. Fabian refused. He said he didn't want to depend on a woman and wanted to carve out his own path. Many people saw them arguing on campus, breaking up and reconciling again and again, until finally, on the day Fabian decided to return to his hometown to become a village teacher, they broke up for good. 6 months later, during a project collaboration between the Liu family and the Su family, Abigail and I crossed paths again. Because of the project, we became familiar once more. Looking back, maybe I took advantage of the situation. I treated her just as well as I had years before. I shared insights from my work at the Su family company, reminded her to drink less at business dinners, and always took her home safely afterward. 3 months later, on a snowy night, she saw me shivering outside her company and suddenly asked, "Noah, do you really like me this much?" I stared at her and nodded. Yes. I had always liked her. She smiled. Then, "Do you want to marry me?" When we first got married, I was full of passion for this marriage. In fact, for most of the past 5 years, I'd been passionate about it, because I loved her. I naively believed that she asked me to marry her because she loved me too. Oh, even though she rarely replied to my messages, even though I had to learn her schedule through her secretary, even though we had no real intimacy beyond the routine of married life, my love for her never wavered. She's an only child and needs to inherit the family business. I have an older brother, so my life has always been easier. Old Master Lou is strict, and the board of directors often makes things difficult for her because of her young age. I know how hard it's always been for her. That's why, after careful consideration, I gave up a management position at the Sue Family Company and joined Lou Corporation, helping her manage its most chaotic branch. I knew it wasn't easy for her as a woman to establish herself in such a large corporation, so I tried my best to handle everything else for her. Even when I got sick from overwork, I never told her. I went to the hospital alone. Until one day, I accidentally stumbled upon a box. Inside was a document showing that for years she had been anonymously donating money to a rural school. Every year, after receiving the donation, the school principal would write a handwritten letter of thanks and send it through official channels. The letters were neatly arranged in the box, without a single crease. And that school's principal was Fabian. The next morning, I asked the housekeeper to prepare breakfast. Suddenly, Abigail came up behind me and hugged me. I was startled and turned around. "Are you having breakfast at home today?" She nodded. "Yeah." The housekeeper froze, staring at me blankly. I glanced awkwardly at the ingredients in her hands. In the past, I always asked her to prepare 2 servings of breakfast, whether Abigail would eat at home or not. I cherished every chance to eat together. But recently, I stopped asking for 2. It felt wasteful. "Well, you eat this one first," I said, plating the omelet. She stared at the plate, dazed. "You should eat it while it's hot." "I'm not going to the office today. I'm heading straight to the supplier's place, so I'll grab something along the way," I said, placing a glass of milk down and turning to leave. "Noah." She grabbed me, hesitating as if she wanted to say something. "What is it?" She stepped closer, wrapped her arms around my waist, and looked up at me. "You haven't seemed yourself lately. Is the workload at the branch overwhelming you?" "Tired." I guess I was, tired of thinking about the divorce. "I don't have any plans tonight," she said. "Secretary Wu mentioned a new Michelin restaurant near the company. They serve Cantonese food, your favorite. Want to go together?" I hesitated. "You have time tonight?" She nodded. "A lot." That lifted something off my shoulders. She had time. That meant tonight I could finally talk about the divorce. But by evening, I was still waiting. She stood me up. Secretary Wu messaged me that something had come up. I was used to it. After dinner, I reviewed reports, then scrolled through short videos. That's when I saw her. Trending locally. Sitting with Fabian in the cafe of Lou Corporation, I turned off my phone. 9:30. She finally came home. She asked what I'd eaten. I asked her about Fabian. She explained. She reassured me. She asked for trust. Then I told her the truth. I didn't even like Cantonese food. She didn't know what I liked. She knew what Fabian liked. That was enough. I looked at her and said, "Abigail, let's get a divorce." She glared at me. "If you're going to keep harping on about tonight, you're being unreasonable. You're a grown man. Stop acting like a woman, clinging to every little thing." The words I hadn't yet spoken were forced back down my throat. I guess tonight's conversation wasn't going to happen after all. Maybe realizing her tone had been too harsh, she softened her voice a moment later. "I've been really tired lately. Don't make a fuss, okay?" With that, she got up and went to take a shower. Watching her walk away, I softly muttered, "Abigail, I had hot pot for dinner." Her footsteps faltered. "Did you know? That's my favorite dish." Later, when my brother Dominic saw the divorce papers in my hand, his eyes bulged like saucers. "No way, what did you say?" "Divorce." Since my marriage to Abigail, the collaboration between the Lou and Sue families had strengthened considerably. I thought it was only right to inform my brother in advance. If I went back to help him at Sue Corp, he'd be happy, but he clearly didn't understand why I was suddenly thinking about divorce. "Well, sure, your marriage was a bit forced at the beginning, but afterward you two always seemed so loving," he said as he swung his golf club. "What do you mean by forced, Dominic?" He rubbed his temples, clearly regretting his slip of the tongue. 5 years ago, the Lou family was in desperate need of funds. At the time, I noticed how much you liked her. You were chasing her day and night. So when Abigail came to me on behalf of Lou Corp, I kind of hinted at something. I stared at him in disbelief. "What did you hint at?" He awkwardly averted his eyes. "I told her that if our families became in-laws, I'd definitely be willing to help with the funds. I froze, my blood turning cold in an instant. Dominic looked at me with concern. And what else? I pressed, fingers to my temple. What else don't I know? He hesitated. I said quietly, Dominic, I'm about to get a divorce. What's left to hide? It's not a big deal, really. It's just, on your wedding day, Abigail's ex-boyfriend showed up. I stared at him, speechless. He wanted to see Abigail, but I didn't want to cause a scene. I told him you two were very happy together and that she wouldn't want to see him, so I sent him away, he said, scratching his head. Since there were people from the Liu family around, I'm not sure if Abigail even knows about it. So that was how it was. That was everything. I had thought she agreed to marry me because I moved her heart, that maybe she liked me just a little. But this marriage was nothing more than her sacrifice for the company, for the Liu family. The meaning behind her words that snowy night 5 years ago suddenly became clear. Noah, do you really like me that much? Enough to force me into marriage, so she married me, but built an invisible chasm between us. She never let me cross that line. When we first got married, I often texted her, tried to take her out, shared little moments of daily life. But aside from company matters, she rarely responded. If anything came up, her secretary would contact me instead. Over time, I spoke less and stopped bothering her. Eventually, my main point of contact became Secretary Wood. We lived a normal married life. She would whisper sweet words in my ear, calling my name over and over again. I always thought that was proof of love. But whenever I mentioned having children, she'd say she was too busy, that the timing wasn't right. Looking back now, she probably never intended to have kids with me at all. After all, I was just her husband, nothing more. Last night, she asked me what more I wanted after assuring me there would be no further involvement with Fabian. Indeed, on our wedding day, they had a chance to start over. Because of me, they missed it again, maybe forever. Oh, what more could this sinner possibly want? But when I fell in love with her, I never wanted this. When she was with Fabian, I was envious, but I never wanted to be the third wheel, let alone break them apart. I loved her because I wanted what was best for her. And yet she punished me like this. For 5 whole years, I wandered aimlessly down the street, and before I knew it, I was standing outside the Liu Corporation building. Inside my briefcase were the finalized divorce papers. I thought about it, then texted Secretary Wu, telling her I was here to see Abigail. I didn't want to drag this out any longer. As I walked into the first-floor lobby, I spotted Fabian. He was smiling, chatting with the receptionist. When he heard my footsteps, he turned to look at me. He was thinner than in the video, darker-skinned than in our school days. Despite wearing a simple jacket and jeans, he exuded confidence, maturity, and composure. "Long time no see," he said with a nod, went together to the cafe. "I never thought I'd taste croissants and black coffee like the ones from our school cafe here. It brings back memories," he said with a smile, still as handsome and fresh as ever. He talked about his experiences over the years. After returning to his hometown to become a village teacher, he helped many children who had dropped out of school. The school was now on track, and he had become quite well known. "You're really impressive," I said sincerely. He smiled. "People only see the glamorous side. In reality, I almost gave up several times." He took a sip of coffee. "Actually, I came to see Abigail on your wedding day." I stayed silent. "I was reckless back then," he continued. "I thought I could leave without consequences. But after becoming a village teacher, I realized how big the gap between ideals and reality really is. There were many times I wanted to give up everything and come back to find her. Then I heard about your wedding." "I'm sorry," I said. He looked startled. "I didn't know you came that day." He lowered his head, saying nothing. "I'm getting a divorce from Abigail," I told him. His eyes widened. "You must be joking." He laughed suddenly. "I've seen you in the media so many times. People always call you two the perfect couple." "It's true," I said. "Can I ask you something?" After a while, he asked softly, "Why are you divorcing her?" I shook my head. "Why else?" "Because I'm tired. I just want someone who would let me be reckless and love me unconditionally, just once." At that moment, a familiar voice came from the cafe entrance. "Noah." Both Fabian and I turned around. It was Abigail. She walked over quickly, paused slightly when she saw Fabian, then frowned at me. What are you doing here all of a sudden? I understood immediately. She probably thought I had come specifically to cause trouble for Fabian. Abigail, Fabian said as he stood up. Sorry for the intrusion again. I wanted to discuss some educational charity projects, and I happen to have free time today. All right, she said. I'll have my secretary take you upstairs. She called Secretary Wu to lead Fabian away. I thought she would go with him, but she stayed behind, looking at me. I was puzzled. Had she sent Fabian away just to settle things with me in public? Her favoritism was too obvious. I rubbed my brow. Abigail, it's not what you think. Noah, are you feeling unwell? She stepped closer and grasped my hand. Why is your face so pale? Why are your hands so cold? Employees passed by, whispering. Then I realized why she was acting this way. She was worried I might cause trouble for Fabian in public, so she sent him away and put on a show of affection to protect him. I didn't mind. We were getting divorced anyway. I smiled. I'm fine. Don't you and Principal Lin still have things to discuss? I'll be leaving. I withdrew my hand and picked up my bag, but she blocked me. Where are you going? She touched my forehead. You have a fever. I'm taking you to the hospital. She insisted on dragging me to the car. I'll drive, she said. At the hospital, the doctor said my temperature was normal but noted hypoglycemia. How long has it been? He asked. A few years, I replied. Afterward, she clung to my arm. In the car, I ate a piece of candy and closed my eyes. Why didn't you ever tell me? She asked quietly. I did, I said. She didn't remember. She never had. You never gave me the chance, I said. I was afraid it would become a reason for you to dislike me. She took my hand. I actually found a spicy restaurant you'd like. I shook my head. Let's just go home. She nodded, joy flickering in her eyes. Once we got home, I took out the divorce agreement. I spent a month on this. If there's anything you want to add, we can discuss it. She stared at it in silence. Then she said, I don't agree. She suddenly pushed the agreement back and turned her head away. I was stunned for a moment. Which part do you disagree with? I picked up the agreement again, completely puzzled. Is it the part about the shares? I've already made the biggest concession. If it's any less, I'm afraid my brother— Before I could finish, she reached out and pressed her hand down on the agreement. Noah. I looked up. I don't agree with the divorce. She looked straight at me, speaking slowly, each word unmistakably clear. Our eyes met, and her expression was unusually serious. Why? I asked. Then something occurred to me. Oh, is it because I've managed the subsidiary well over the past 5 years, and you're worried your next husband won't be able to do as well? That people will criticize him. I waved it off lightly. You don't have to worry. As long as he's willing to put in the effort, he'll do just fine. I thought for a moment, then walked over to the bookshelf and pulled out 5 notebooks. These record a lot of important details about Lu Corporation's internal operations, how to handle the media, supplier contacts, and the staffing structure of the subsidiary, I said calmly. Don't worry. I can hand all of this over to your future husband. If he needs help later, he can always ask me. Noah. She suddenly raised her voice, her eyes reddening. I looked at her, confused. What do you take our marriage for? She demanded. And what do you take me for? A job. I didn't answer. I simply turned to look out the window. How could it possibly be just a job? It was precisely because I valued this marriage so much that I worked so hard, trying to make everything perfect. But now, what was the point of saying any of that? Noah. She took the hand that was resting on the table, gripping it tightly. You need to understand, we're not just work partners. We're husband and wife. But apart from sharing a bed, I said quietly, we don't have anything that resembles a real marriage. She froze. We've had dinner together so few times I can count them on one hand. I've sent you fewer messages than I've sent Secretary Wu. I gently pulled my hand back. I don't know what other marriages are like, but I know I don't want this one anymore. Abigail, I've thought about this carefully. In this marriage, you've done nothing wrong. I was the one who pursued you. I was the one who wanted to get married. And for 5 years, you never cheated. I paused. It was me who clung to unrealistic fantasies about this marriage. We could continue living like this, I said calmly, but I think people should be with someone they love, and who loves them back. After all, being with someone you love will make you happier, right? She stared at me blankly. Someone I love, she repeated, as if in a daze. Who do you think I love? I shook my head. I don't know. But whoever it is, whether it's Fabian or someone else, it isn't me. The next morning, I moved out of the house and returned to the apartment I had bought before we got married. The night before, we had sat in silence for a few minutes before Abigail got up to take a phone call and then left. She didn't come back all night. She had taken the divorce agreement with her. I assumed that meant she had agreed. After all, it wasn't much of a loss for her. The wedding ring on my left hand was the only gift Abigail had ever given me in 5 years. Before leaving, I took it off and placed it on the bedside table. Just as I finished packing, my brother called. "Hey, why did Abigail call me early this morning asking what kind of candy you like?" His voice sounded utterly exasperated. "What's going on with you two? Are you playing house? Are you getting divorced or not?" I was momentarily stunned. "We are." "Hey, bro." After thinking for a moment, I asked, "Don't we have a small media company that hasn't been doing very well?" He hummed in response. "It hasn't turned a profit for years. I was planning to cut my losses and shut it down." Then, I gazed out at the vast blue sky beyond the 26th floor window. "Can you give it to me?" That evening, I unexpectedly received a message from Abigail. "Let's go to tonight's party together, okay?" I stared at my phone, feeling a little disoriented. Messages like this usually came from Secretary Wu, not her. "We should go separately. While we're in the middle of the divorce, I've already moved out," I replied. There was no response, which made sense. It was exactly what I had expected. But an hour later, when I went downstairs to get my car, I saw Abigail standing there. I didn't know how long she'd been waiting, but she looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. I had never seen her look so worn down. "What are you?" Her eyes lit up briefly. She hurried over and grabbed my hand, then suddenly froze. "Your ring." I took it off. "Why aren't you wearing it?" Her voice carried a trace of urgency. "We're getting divorced. There's no need for it anymore, right?" "Noah." She raised her voice. "I haven't agreed to the divorce yet." I was confused. "You haven't?" "You didn't say anything last night. You took the divorce papers with you." She looked at me for a long moment, then tears welled up in her eyes. "Not saying anything means I agreed?" "Noah," she suddenly hugged me, her voice shaking with sobs. "I don't want a divorce." She said she didn't want a divorce. I had imagined countless obstacles. My brother, the transfer of management, the division of assets. But I had never expected to fail at the very first step. She didn't want it. I was almost desperate. "Why don't you want it? How can you not? Isn't this the best outcome for both of us?" She was stunned, about to speak, when a car horn blared nearby. Her car was blocking someone's way. With no other choice, we both got into her car and headed to the party together. Soon as I sat in the passenger seat, I noticed something strange. The once spotless back seat was now piled with packages. "I bought some candy," she said softly. "There's more in the glove compartment. From now on, don't hide it from me when you're not feeling well." She paused, then added, "I've put some around the house too. Abigail, I've also found 2 great chefs who specialize in spicy food. From now on, whether it's spicy or sweet, whatever you want to eat, I'll eat with you. I'll even learn to cook it myself. I'll start coming home earlier so we can have dinner together. On weekends, we can go to the movies or the amusement park. If what's bothering you is Fabian, I can explain that too. The company has been involved in educational charity projects for years, but the choice of schools wasn't made by me. It was based on a comprehensive evaluation by the office. I didn't expect Fabian's school to be selected. I only found out recently myself. I know you might have seen those letters. They were always handled by the office. I didn't see them much earlier than you did. It was only because Father found out recently that I asked the office to organize them so I could bring them to the old house this weekend. And about the employee at the cafe, she used to work at the school cafe. When she lost her job, I arranged for her to work here. Fabian used to work there, so she remembers him and his preferences." She looked aggrieved. Maybe my attitude that night caused a misunderstanding, but Fabian is just someone from the past. Someone irrelevant. Someone who has nothing to do with us anymore. "Abigail, Noah," she interrupted, "please just listen to me. I thought about it all night. I know I haven't done well in this marriage, but I can change. People who admit their mistakes deserve another chance, don't they?" By the time we arrived at the party, I was still a little dazed. After exchanging polite greetings with a few acquaintances, I went out onto the balcony for some air, and unexpectedly ran into someone familiar. Rose. My childhood friend. "Well, well," she said with a raised brow and a smirk. "If it isn't the universally praised, perfect husband. Long time no see." Her sharp tongue hadn't changed at all. "How have you been?" I knew her situation as the Tang family's illegitimate daughter hadn't been easy. "Fine." She pulled out a cigarette and offered one. "Want one?" I hesitated. "Better not. You quit. If I get photographed, it'll be a mess. The media thinks I don't smoke." "How boring." She pointed toward the woods. "If anyone's hiding there taking pictures, I'll eat the entire forest." I laughed. "All right. Give me one. That's more like it. You looked depressed earlier. Still no work lately?" She shrugged. "Rose, have you ever thought about joining my little company?" She raised an eyebrow. "What's this about? Aren't you still at Lu Corporation? No longer the man behind its success." I ignored the jab and sent her the details. "It's still a startup. The pay isn't great, but I hope you'll consider it." "Got it." She yawned, then glanced past me. "See? I told you." I turned around. Abigail was standing there, and my first instinct was to stub out the cigarette. She hated the smell. She frowned slightly at Rose, then looked at me. "Why are you smoking? It's bad for your health." Rose glanced between us. "You didn't know he smokes," she said casually. "He's always smoked." Abigail froze. "Sister," Rose said, patting her shoulder with a smile. "You've been married for 5 years. Do you really know your husband less than I do?" After Rose left, only Abigail and I remained. "Don't misunderstand," I said, rubbing my temples. "I didn't mean to hide it. The subsidiary was chaotic back then. Your uncles kept stirring trouble. I was under a lot of pressure. Sometimes I smoked alone at home." Her face turned even paler. "We already checked earlier. No one was taking photos," I added. "You don't have to worry about PR." "Do you really think that's what I'm worried about?" Her eyes reddened. She lowered her head. "Noah, have I disappointed you?" I hesitated. "Disappointed? Of course. But after being disappointed enough times, you stop feeling it. Now that I decided to divorce, what was the point of blame?" "No," I said. "Not at all. So you can talk to Rose about your stress," she said softly, "but not me." I froze. "Would you really listen?" I asked honestly. She nodded. "My only stress right now," I said seriously, "is whether this divorce can go through smoothly, and preferably faster." Her entire body trembled. She hugged me tightly. "Anything but that," she said hoarsely. "Noah, I can't. I can't divorce you." After that, Abigail changed a lot. Although I stepped down from managing Lou's subsidiary and took over Sue Media, gifts kept arriving. Homemade meals, too. Sometimes she even came in person. It felt like our roles had reversed. Everyone at the company praised her, unaware of the impending divorce. Only Rose ever gave me a knowing smile. A month later, Rose and I worked late nights on a bid proposal. When we finished, I smiled at her. "I think I found a hidden gem." She scoffed. "I'm just lowering myself to help you." "Want to grab dinner?" She paused. "Isn't someone coming to find you?" I turned. Abigail was there. Rose waved lazily. "You owe me dinner." After she left, Abigail walked over holding a thermos. "Have you eaten?" she asked softly. "I have," I replied. A brief silence followed. "Abigail, I think—" Before I could finish, she suddenly threw herself into my arms, hugging me tightly. "Abigail!" I stiffened, unsure what to do. What's wrong? She didn't answer. She only took a deep breath as the seconds ticked by on the clock hanging on the wall. I'm jealous, she whispered after a long pause. Noah, I'm jealous. I never imagined that one day Abigail would hold me like this and admit such words. You asked me before why I didn't agree to the divorce, she said softly. Do you know why? It's because I couldn't bear the thought of you being with someone else. Just like tonight, when I stood at the door and watched you smiling at her, seeing how happy you both were, I couldn't stop the jealousy from flooding my heart. I know deep down that nothing is going on between you and Rose, she said, her voice trembling, but I was still so jealous I could hardly stand it. Noah, she buried her face against my chest. I feel like I'm going crazy. I raised my hand and gently held her. Abigail, you also asked me why I wanted a divorce, didn't you? Her body stiffened. For 5 years, I was someone else's husband, I said quietly. I devoted all my love and attention to my wife. But in the end, I realized I had lost myself. Abigail, I want a divorce because I want to be Noah again. I want to live for myself. I gently pulled her away. It's been 5 years. Let's part on good terms, okay? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I hesitated, then turned to leave. But suddenly, she grabbed my hand. Honey, I froze. Just once, she pleaded softly. Give me one more chance, okay? Her hand was burning hot. All right, I said quietly. If by the end of the year you step down as Lou Corporation's president, then we won't get divorced. She blinked in shock. What? That's my only condition. She hesitated. Noah, that condition is too harsh for me. I shook my head and tried to pull my hand away, but she refused to let go. That's the only condition. Nothing else will do. After a long moment, she finally released my hand. I understand, she said softly. When I told my brother, he was stunned for a second before bursting out laughing. Step down. He shook his head. No way. If Abigail steps down, I'll let you use my head as a soccer ball. I knew it wasn't that simple. The Lou family situation was complicated. The old patriarch had 2 sons, Abigail's father and her uncle. Originally, the company was meant to pass to the elder son's branch, but 6 years ago, Abigail's cousin got into trouble and ended up in prison. That responsibility fell squarely on Abigail's shoulders. The other relatives, unhappy with a woman taking charge, caused endless trouble. Many coveted the president's seat, and over the past 5 years, I had helped Abigail fend off countless schemes and internal struggles. She wasn't particularly close to the old patriarch either, having not grown up in the main household. And with his age, his judgment sometimes faltered. I knew better than anyone how much effort she had put into securing that position. Oh, I knew she wouldn't step down. And I was right. After I gave her my condition, Abigail never came looking for me again. 3 months passed in a blink. I buried myself in work. The company finally began to show real signs of improvement. Rose and the others were energized, and I could tell she herself had changed a lot during that time. On December 31st, we held a small year-end party. We ate together, sang karaoke, and even my brother showed up. You really are something, little bro, he said, grinning. Everyone says you're a business genius. Then he pushed his luck. Shouldn't you take on more responsibility in the family business? Dad keeps dumping everything on me. I'm exhausted. The atmosphere was lively. Since I'd promised to help him, my brother was in high spirits, singing and dancing wildly, completely abandoning his usual composed image. Around 11 p.m., we left the karaoke bar. Snow had just started falling. A few colleagues began tossing snowballs at each other. Across the street, a huge screen on a mall was broadcasting a TV program. My brother was still babbling behind me when a snowflake landed in my hair. As I brushed it off, I caught sight of a familiar face on the screen. T was Abigail. She stood poised and elegant as a reporter interviewed her. President Lou, may I ask why you suddenly decided to step down from your position at Lou Corporation? Was there a specific reason? Abigail smiled calmly. There's no special reason, she said. I just want to take a break for a while. To spend time with my husband. I stared blankly at the screen. When I turned around, my brother was just as stunned. After meeting my gaze, he silently raised his hand and touched his own neck. Just then, my phone rang. Hello. Where are you? City Center, by the clock tower. I'll be there in half an hour. Abigail, Noah, she said lightly, with a hint of a smile, you need to keep your word. Wait for me. At 11:45 p.m., I met Abigail beneath the clock tower. She walked through the falling snow, flakes settling softly on her hair and shoulders, blurring her figure like something out of a dream. This wasn't necessary, I said quietly. You stepped down. What if you can't go back? She shook her head and smiled. If I can't go back, then I can't. I frowned. 5 years of hard work. How can you just walk away like that? You're being stubborn. I pinched the bridge of my nose, trying to ease the tension. She smiled, her eyes curving gently. So, you're worried about me? She stepped closer. That means I still have a chance, doesn't it? Abigail, she reached out and handed me a stack of papers. T was the divorce agreement. I froze. For the past 3 months, while preparing my resignation, I've done a lot of thinking, she said calmly. Noah, I stepped down, but I don't want to use that to force you to stay in this marriage. She paused. I've already signed the divorce papers. Then why did you resign? I asked, even more confused. A good businessperson doesn't make a deal that results in loss, she said softly. I'm confident that even if I leave Lou Corporation, I can build something just as successful from scratch. Starting over is just more challenging. She smiled faintly. Besides, I want to use my resignation to trade for something else. Trade for something else? She stood on her toes and gently brushed the snow from my hair. To trade it for a chance for us to start over. She looked up at me, and I looked down at her. In her eyes, I saw a tenderness and love I had never seen before. To trade it for a chance for Abigail to win Noah back. At 11:59, I signed my name on the divorce papers. From that moment on, I was no longer the perfect husband everyone admired. I was just Noah. The clock tower rang as the new year arrived. Abigail and I looked up at the snow falling all around us. It's the new year, I said softly. Yes, she replied. She smiled, her eyes bright, and extended her hand. Happy New Year, Noah. I'm Abigail. I smiled back and took her hand. Happy New Year, Abigail. I'm Noah.